we would like now to proceed with the presentation of the Development Budget Coordination Committee. May we now start with the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas.
Madam Speaker.
May we now recognize Deputy Governor Zeno Ronald Abenoja for the presentation.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, may I be recognized?
The Chair recognizes Honorable Daza.
Madam Chair, sorry. May I make a parliamentary inquiry?
Please proceed.
Madam Chair, thank you for recognizing me on my parliamentary inquiry. But before I begin, I would like to make a short manifestation. I would like to thank you and congratulate you, Speaker Romualdez, Majority Leader Marcos, and Minority Leader Lebanon, and the entire leadership for the opening remarks you made, along with Speaker, on the abolishment of the small committees after third reading, as it was done in the past, or as it was practiced, and that the bicameral conference committee will now be open to the public, as well as the institutionalization of civil society organizations. This is in line with the pronouncement, of course, of the President in his SONA, and this will be great, a good step forward for budget transparency and public participation. And I'd like to recognize your efforts at the onset of our budget deliberations. But in line with my parliamentary inquiry under our House rules...
Madam Chair, point of order.
Please proceed, Honorable Rodriguez.
My point of order is that under the rules of the Committee Appropriation, there is a listing of those who are going to interpolate. It starts with the minority and then goes to majority after all the presentation that will be done. Otherwise, if you'll allow, we have very good points from the Congressman Dasa, but if we allow interventions at this point, then we are going to not follow the order of interpellation and manifestation. So sadly, I'm sorry, but I have to do this call to order because we have to follow our rules. Madam Chair.
May I ask the Honorable Daza as to the nature of this parliamentary inquiry?
Well, Madam Chair, in line with my parliamentary inquiry, under the House rules in Section 35, the fourth paragraph provides, a bill, resolution, or petition shall be set for a hearing only after it has been referred in plenary session to an appropriate committee. But because the NEP, in my understanding, has yet to be filed as the GAB, my inquiry is this a briefing or a hearing?
This is a briefing, as mentioned by the Chair during the call to order.
So, Madam Chair, it is my understanding that because the GAB will not be filed until September 1st, my question is, perhaps because maybe I'm a first-termer, so please enlighten and satisfy my curiosity. Why does it take so long for the GAB to be filed, considering we received it last week?
The process of...
Madam Chair, I call for the ruling of my point of order.
May I request for the members to wait for the chair for you to be recognized by the chairperson before proceeding. Honorable Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I call for a ruling of the chair on my call to my point of order.
Madam Chair, may I also raise a point of order now?
Before that, I would just like to quickly respond to the query by the Honorable Daza. The reason why it takes so long, it's a tedious process. So every line that's there in the NEP has to be encoded manually and translated into the General Appropriations Bill. That's why we would need that time in terms of the preparation and the printing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may just...
Before you proceed to your next point, may I recognize Honorable Deputy Speaker Ronnie Puno.
Yes, I just want to ask, since we're already talking points of order and parliamentary inquiries, has this converted already into a committee hearing instead of a briefing?
Yes, so this is not yet a hearing. This will be a briefing. Hearings would only be conducted once the GAB is filed formally. So hence the current layout of today is a briefing.
May I inquire why we are making this a briefing instead of a hearing?
Sorry, there's feedback. So we're unable to hear the queries. If I may request the Honorable Puno to
Yes.
kindly reiterate.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just inquiring why this is a briefing instead of a hearing.
Yes, because hearings are only allowed once the GAB has been formally filed, but we are allowed to conduct briefings prior to the filing of the GAB, especially since the nature of today's hearing pertain to the BESF, which is a prerequisite for the filing of the GAB.
But I understand from the rules, Madam Chair, that the Speaker can waive the 5-day requirement and allow a hearing to begin conducted immediately. I am just at a loss as to why we're having a briefing instead of a hearing, and then later on in the proceedings, we will then convert this briefing into a hearing, while we can just make this a hearing from day one.
The determining factor at the moment is the filing of the GAB. Given that the GAB is not yet filed, we are unable to turn this into a hearing despite the waiving of the 5-day rule, because the GAB will be filed in a week or so. So we cannot conduct hearings on the GAB given that the GAB has not been filed. And subsequently referred to the Committee on Appropriations.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor the point, but I really do not understand why it has to be a briefing instead of a hearing. Since the senior deputy speaker is here, I believe we might have a quorum in the halls of Congress right now. What is to prevent us now from moving that the proposed appropriations be read into the minutes of the first reading and be assigned already to the Appropriations Committee, so that the committee can take cognizance and jurisdiction already over this matter? Because right now, as a briefing, the committee has no jurisdiction over anything that is going on.
So in the technical sense, we are unable to conduct a hearing on the GAB, given that the GAB is yet to be filed. So that is the subject matter of the hearings later on. It is the GAB. So now what we're conducting the briefings on would be the macroeconomic assumptions and details on the sources of financing, which will then feed into the the GAB. Essentially, what we need to determine today is whether there is sufficient sources of financing to be able to finance the expenditures as stated in the NEP, which would later be turned to the GAB. So that's the reason why the sequence of events would be the BESF would be turned over, and then after that, we would have to conduct the hearings on the BESF, macroeconomic assumptions, sources of financing. After that, we can determine that there is enough sources of financing to finance the expenditures listed on the NEP, and thereafter, the NEP can be turned into the GAB.
Madam Chair.
Thank you for your explanation, Madam Chair. I will leave the matter there, but I will serve notice that I will bring this matter up when Congress is in session or the House is in session as a point of order again, because I believe that it's important that the Committee on Appropriations assume jurisdiction already in a formal way over all of these proceedings. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker Puno. May I recognize Honorable Brian Pope?
Madam Chair, considering we've already discussed the situation with the hearing versus briefing, in the interest also of time, since all of our secretaries have made time to be here and brief us today, maybe we could proceed. I'm very interested to hear what they have to say.
Thank you very much. Before we proceed with the presentation of the BSP, may we request the technical team, the audio team, to please lessen the echo. It's a little bit challenging for everyone inside the plenary to hear. Actually, that's why we've been asking everyone to repeat their statements, because it's a little bit hard for us to hear. There's feedback.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Honorable Chanco.
Madam Chair, I think you have to rule on the point of order of the Honorable Rodriguez unless he withdraws his motion.
The ruling of the chair is we will proceed today as a briefing, not a hearing.
Okay, thank you very much. But I would just like to clarify that the sequence is, as Honorable Rodriguez remembers, and I hope we modify it. I hope we sustain it. Is it's minority, independence, and then majority, right, Honorable Rodriguez?
We agree with that, and that is why there's a listing here, and there is the minority, there is an independent group, and we have the majority, and then it will be alternating. But
Yes.
always starting with the minority, then the independent, Madam Chair, and then the majority. But we have to proceed already.
Yes, thank you.
Otherwise, if we allow parliamentary inquiry, questions and suggestion manifestation, then we cannot really start the hearing. The reason why this is a hearing, Madam Chair, is because the GAB has not yet been filed by our rules and referred to our plenary. There's nothing to hear. But because of the lack of material time, and we want to finish this budget for the development of our country, this will just be a briefing because there can be no hearing. There's no General Appropriations Bill filed yet and referred to the on first reading to the committee. After it is filed on September 1, then we go into the hearing itself. But what happens now? The same banana. What happens now, there will be presentation, there will be interpellations up to August 31, and then we have September 1. But we are going to adopt in the committee the briefing here to be converted to a hearing once we already have this GAB, General Appropriations Bill, already pending in the plenary and already called by first reading. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. The last point that we will say about this matter is that the proper sequence is clear. First is a submission of the BESF. Second is the briefing and deliberations on the financing framework and aggregate expenditures. Third is the filing of the GAB. Fourth is the detailed deliberations of the NEP only after the GAB is formally referred to the Committee on Appropriations. I would also like to assure the Honorable Chanco that we will follow that sequence in the interpellation. So we'll start with the minority, then independent, and then majority. May I now proceed with the presentations? I would like to recognize the Honorable Deputy Governor of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, Deputy Governor Zino Ronald Abinoja, for the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Honorable Congressman, Honorable House Speaker Representative Martin Romualdez, Honorable Chair of the Committee on Appropriations, Micaela Swansing, and Honorable Representatives present at today's briefing. Good morning to all of you. It is my privilege to present our assessment of the monetary, financial, and external sector performance of the country, as well as the macroeconomic assumptions behind the proposed national government budget for the fiscal year 2026. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is a resource institution.
Madam Chair, point of order. Well,
May I, before I
Parliamentary.
recognize the Honorable Tino, would it be possible, let's just let the BSP finish their presentation
Madam
first.
Chair, my point is that in briefings, it is customary for the head of agency to make the presentation. But I do not see the governor of the Bangko Sentral here to make the presentation. And we have not heard an explanation either, Madam Chair.
So we received last August 15 a letter from the governor of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, Governor Eli Remolona Jr., requesting to be excused from today's DBCC briefing, as this coincides with the second high-level bilateral meeting between the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and the National Bank of Cambodia. So this meeting was finalized last July 10, 2025, before we even convened for the first regular session of Congress, and it is scheduled to be held today. So given that this is bilateral in nature between two central banks of two countries, the committee and the House leadership decided to allow Governor Remolona to be excused from today's hearing.